Welcome. Thanks for joining me. Tonight we're going to be cleaning out our mock-up space. So I want to do a little explanation of mock-ups for those of you that are new to the sanctuary. A mock-up is your ability to create a clearly defined mental image picture of you receiving something from the universe. Now, this is a little different than a goal. When I look at the energy of goals, you have complete control over a goal because that's something you're asking of yourself. Now, a mock-up is something that you are requesting from the universe. So in order to make that clear, it has to be created in the form of a mental image picture. And I thought the best way to clean this space out tonight would be to go through the 4 sections that make up a mock-up and explain them to you what they are as I'm doing the healing so that we get a really thorough clean out of the whole mock-up process tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a prayer and setting the energy. As we cleanse and heal the temple of the soul, may it be with the blessing of divinity that it shine its countenance upon us and bring us peace in body, mind, and spirit. Amen. Okay, now the healing's going to be done on the composite of everybody in the sanctuary and all of your matching pictures. So I'm going to start with the first part of a mock-up, which is actually, there's a lot that goes on in the first, I'm going to call it a quadrant because I've broken it into 4 parts. But in this first part, it's your ability to create that clearly defined mental image picture and to put yourself in the picture and expressing the mood or the feelings that you're going to have once you receive that mock-up. And you have to put information in as to what the time frame is. And then I always recommend that you put the statement into the mock-up that I will receive this blankety blank, whatever that mock-up is that you're asking for. Or for the highest and best good of all involved. So when we set up the mock-up, we want it to be set up at the highest vibration. So I'm going to start with this first section, which is you and your ability to create a picture. Okay. The first energy that's pouring out of there is discouragement. And a lot of the discouragement that I see is the result of other people's energy diddling your mock-up. Now, what does that mean, diddling your mock-up? It's just a silly word that means trying to destroy your mock-up. And oftentimes people don't realize that the energy that they're running through your space acts as a destroy vibration. So, you might tell somebody that you are thinking of doing something, and if they have an opinion about it that is not in agreement with what it is that you're trying to do, they might vocalize that, and the energy of that will get in your mock-up space. And if you're not neutral to it, it can stick. And this is the first energy that I'm clearing out of your mock-up space, is the discouragement and also judgment from other people. I will tell you that what's underneath this is a really beautiful, like orange gold, and the energy of discouragement and judgment is coming out pretty quickly. The next part of this first section has to do with your ability to create a picture. And there's a lot of energy in that. And some of it is, I can't see. I don't actually see pictures. I'm saying that as hearing it from you. And what I see about that is that a lot of times when you're trying to visualize your mock-up picture, you're down in your lower body chakras. You're not going to be able to see energy from like your second or third chakra or even your heart chakra. The only place you can really see energy is from here, your sixth chakra. So this is just a friendly reminder that when you do your mock-ups, it's really important to bring all of your awareness right into the center of your head before you even start visualizing your picture. And there's a lot of energy coming out that says, I don't really feel like I'm getting my mock-ups. I think I'm doing them, but I don't really receive what I'm trying to receive. So there's a lot of like a thick yellow white energy coming out that has to do with that. Okay, then the next thing that's coming up that it seems to be very important for this section is when you have to put a time frame into the mock-up. And that's really important because if we create a mental image picture of something that we want and we don't put a time frame in it, guess what? You might not get it till the end of your life, or you might get it next lifetime for real. So you have to close the end of the mock-up and create a time frame that you will receive that mock-up by. And the energies that I'm seeing about this are disbelief. Like when you set the time frame for your mock-up, there's a lot of disbelief, like that you can receive it within that time frame. Some of what's coming out of that is worry. And also being in future time. Good, that's all coming out. Then there's some energy about how to set up the picture, the mental image picture, and what that's supposed to look like. And I highly recommend, that every time you create that picture, you have yourself in the picture, as well as the expression on your face of how you will feel when you receive that mock-up. So that's a really important part of creating that mental image picture. I love how the energy is moving out of this really quickly. Like when I'm working on it, I'll just put my attention on these vibrations that I'm telling you about, and it's coming out really fast. Oh, here's a good one. Who gets the mock-up? You might think that you're creating the mock-up for yourself, but there's a lot of programming in this first quadrant about other people getting in on your mock-ups. So I'm going to do a little deprogramming and clear people who would like to ride the coattails of your beautiful creative energy and reap the rewards of your mock-ups without you really having the awareness that that's what's happening. So this is a lot of unconscious energy that I'm going to be clearing, and as well as the programming. Programming is taking a little bit longer. One of the biggest energies I see in this is family energy, where like your agreements, your healing agreements with your family sometimes get blurred, and the family members will start to move into your creative space and start to believe that whatever you create, they get a piece of. And my point is you might want to share and the benefits of your mock-ups with your family, but what you want to be able to do is make the choice for yourself. So the space that I'm working on is an unconscious space. That is a lot of energy coming out, that family energy. Good. This is just what I wanted to see. With the family energy coming out, all of a sudden there's a lot of creative energy starting to get circulated in the mock-up space. So that's just what we want to see. And the way that I see that creative energy tonight is very sparkling. It's like yellows and different colors, but mostly kind of like sparkling yellow. Okay. I'm going to fill that particular quadrant in with gold. All right. So that was the first part where we create a mental image picture, make sure it's really defined well, and we put a statement in about receiving the mock-up for the highest and best good of all involved with an end date or sooner. Okay. The next quadrant is the second one, and that has to do with running your mock-up by Supreme Being. So we can create mock-ups till the cows come home, but if it doesn't, if the mock-up isn't in alignment with ourselves and our belief system and our relationship with Supreme Being, then you may wind up with a mock-up that you don't want. And my favorite example is of if I want a red bike and I create the picture of the red bike, but in the details, as I'm visualizing the picture, I say, well, I don't really care how I get the red bike. I just want the red bike. So I'm not putting in that statement of for the highest and best good of all involved. Let's say I leave that out. Then what happens is my red bike comes to me and it was stolen. Let's say it fell off the back of a truck. And that's because I didn't put into it that it was for the highest and best good of all involved. Okay, so this section is where you run those thoughts by Supreme Being and you find out, did I set my mock-up up correctly? Is it in agreement with where I want to be in alignment with myself? So this is really about your communication with Supreme Being in requesting your mock-ups. And the energy in this space is a beautiful orange gold. There's some gray energy of doubt. That's the first energy I'm clearing. And I also need to clear some anger at Supreme Being. For some of you, you're so frustrated with your mock-up space that you've started to turn on Supreme Being and be angry at Supreme Being. So I want to clean that out. And the thing about mock-ups that you want to remember is that regardless of what has happened in the past, you can create a mock-up, a perfectly beautiful mock-up, and have it come in no effort, regardless of if you've had trouble in the past. It's about clearing the energy and setting the mock-up up correctly. Ooh, there's a lot of energy coming out of the communication with Supreme Being. Frustration, like I said, anger. Also, some lack of clarity about your relationship with Supreme Being. What's important about this particular section of the mock-up too is once you get that green light from Supreme Being, I call it a green light. It's after you've spoken to Supreme Being and you've asked to be shown if there's anything in your mock-up that needs to change in order to stay in alignment with you. Gosh, I just lost my train of thought. Now, you're probably thinking, wow, how did that happen? Sometimes I'll be looking at a picture, an energy, and another energy will come in, or I might hit a pain picture. So that's how that happens. So just give me a minute and I'll try to remember what I was saying to you. Oh, there's something, and I don't remember what that was. You viewing are probably like trying to tell me right now what it was, and I'm sorry. But anyway, I was looking at and listening to what else is in that space, and it's need. And when you create a mock-up, you want to create it from your sixth chakra in neutrality, because what happens if you create it in need, that mock-up will come back to you on a survival level, because the vibration that you create your mock-ups in is the vibration that your mock-up's going to come back to you in. So that's why I always recommend that you run your energy and you meditate for a while before you create a mock-up and send it off, because you want to be at your highest vibration so that that mock-up comes back to you as a really great high vibration mock-up. So what I'm finding in this section right now is the energy of need and how that turns the mock-up into a survival energy. So in this section is where I'm going to ground you all at your first chakra and ground that survival energy out. I'll give you an example of what happens when there's need in the mock-up. Let's say I need a job and I create my mock-up from that space of need, like survival. The job that is going to come to me is still going to vibrate at survival. It's not going to be any different than the job that I had. And what we want to do is like create new things so that you have new opportunities, you get to grow and change and evolve. And so if you're creating a job from the vibration of survival, you're going to get another job in the vibration of survival. So again, that's why I always recommend that you run your energy before you do the mock-up. And now I'm cleaning out the actual communication line between you and Supreme Being so that you can have more clarity when you go to ask if the mock-up is set up properly. Now, here's something I was not expecting to find. a lot of alien beings wanting your creative information in your communication with Supreme Being. So I'm going to be clearing some beings out. Nice. Now I'm seeing some creative energy come into this quadrant. So that's very exciting. And the creative energy coming into this quadrant is more like the color of an opal, or I should say colors of an opal. Okay, I'm going to fill that quadrant in with gold, and we're going to move on to the third quadrant, which is your ability to trust in the universe. By the way, let me back up. I forgot to tell you, at the end of the second quadrant is when you release the mock-up off into the universe. So now fast forward to the third quadrant. That mock-up is floating out there to the center of the universe, and it requires you to trust that you did your picture properly, you talked to Supreme Being. If you got the green light from Supreme Being after you made any changes that you needed to, that mock-up's yours. And if you just trust in the universe and give it the breadth and space to come back to you without worrying, without demanding, without obsessing on it, all of those energies in this space are going to prevent the mock-up from coming back to you. So I'm going to check to make sure that there aren't those energies in here. What's coming up for me first in this section is I'm hearing a lot of you say, but somebody else always gets my mock-up. And I'm trying to see where the weak link in the chain is there. It really has to do with your ownership of the mock-up after you talk to Supreme Being. As I said, once Supreme Being gives you that okay and tells you that your mock-up is set up properly, that's the point at which you need to own it. And it shows up in the third quadrant if you're not really owning your mock-up. So I'm going to clean that energy out. And then there's the waiting. the torturous waiting for the mock-up to come in. Now, the best thing you can do after you send your mock-up off is to forget about it and pretend that it's already taken care of. Because when you move into the third quadrant, if you're waiting for it and, like I said, obsessing about it or wondering if it's really going to happen, all of those energies push the mock-up out into future time. So the mock-up just keeps getting pushed out farther and farther, and it never has the space to come back to you. And again, in this quadrant, the issue of your history of making mock-ups and receiving them comes up because I see the energy of questioning whether the universe is actually going to bring your mock-up to you because of your worries about the past and how you haven't had success in the past. So I'm cleaning that out. I am so excited with what I'm seeing because the energy in the mock-up space is really getting cleaned out and it's moving and shaken. And so this is very exciting to see. You know, it just occurred to me that it's not just trusting in the universe, it's also trusting in yourself. And so I'm going to do a little healing on the vibration of trust in this section. And interestingly, I find this to be a fourth chakra, heart chakra issue. And remember, your heart chakra has to do with your self-affinity, your ability to like and love yourself. Okay. Again, there's a really pretty orange gold coming into that space. And I'm going to go ahead and fill that in with a big gold sun. And then the last space is the fourth quadrant, and that has to do with receiving your mock-up. And I'll tell you what's important in this quadrant is how you receive your mock-up. Do you validate yourself for getting the mock-up? Even if the mock-up isn't exactly the way that you wanted it, even if it's only like a smidgen of the mock-up, do you validate the part that came through the way that you want it? Or do you dismiss the whole mock-up? Because what happens when you just dismiss the mock-up if you didn't get it exactly the way you want it? One, you don't learn what energy created the problem that the mock-up didn't come back to you correctly. And so that's really important to be able to look at the mock-up by pulling it back on your screen and looking at, okay, what energy got into this and altered it? So let me work on that. There's a lot of fear coming out. I believe the fear has to do with fear of not receiving the mock-up, like period, just not getting your mock-up. And the other part that's really important is your ability to, I think I was saying this already, validate yourself for whatever part of the mock-up that did come through. And what I need to do is clean out all the invalidation. That invalidation is like the ugliest color I've seen in a while. It's really hard for me to describe it, but it is really ugly. And there's a lot of it. So this is going to feel really good after I get this out of there. There it goes. And as I said, that was thick and ugly. So that's gone. And the next energy I want to address is the energy of like destroy energy, trying to destroy that mock-up as it comes to you. And first, I'm going to erase snakes because they represent the vibrations of competition, control, and destroy. And I do find snakes in this quadrant. And then there is another energy that we already looked at, but it's in the fourth quadrant too. And you're not going to like this, but it's everybody like in that quadrant, like me. What are you going to create for me? What part of this mock-up is for me? So there's a lot of people in your receiving quadrant that think that they are entitled to a part of your mock-up, whatever that mock-up is. And again, once we clean this out, then you have the ability to choose for yourself who you want to share a mock-up with, if you even want to share the mock-up with anyone. Well, they're not going nicely. This is going to take a minute. Everybody wants a piece of your mock-up. Gosh, you know who's really in there? Bosses. I love to bag on bosses. Christy's probably laughing really hard right now. But I do. And what I see is that bosses feel entitled to your creative energy. So I'm going to deprogram that. You know, what just occurred to me is that you might want to take a look for yourself if there's anyone you know that you fall into that space and feel entitled to receive from them, because that would be an energy you would want to call back so that it's not reciprocated. Wow, that was so much energy of people feeling entitled and bosses feeling entitled. So that was great. That was a big wave of like gray energy coming out. And then what's coming in to this quadrant is amusement. And I think that's so appropriate. Now, that's not me, that's Supreme Being putting amusement in this quadrant, because it's important to stay amused when you receive your mock-up, whether you get 100% of it or 13% of it. It's important to have your amusement. And then there's some really beautiful yellow gold validation coming into this quadrant. All right. That mock-up process looks fantastic. I'm so excited. So the whole thing is vibrating at like multiple colors of creative energy. There's lots of different gold shades in there. It really is lovely. So I'm going to go ahead and fill you all in with a gold sun and close out. And may it be with the blessing of divinity that this healing on everyone's mock-up space tonight be complete. Amen. Ooh, that was fun. I'm just going to tell you the first February event coming up, and because I'm sending out an announcement tomorrow with the link to Seek and You Will Find, so you can look at all the announcements for yourself. And that first event that we're having in February is on Thursday the 3rd, and that's going to be a 20-minute meditation on patience. Now, I know last night I said it was on passion, but I got that confused. We're doing a meditation on passion for our Female Fridays so that we can have more time to really explore that passion vibration. And then the 20-minute meditation is on patience. So I look forward to seeing you all on the 3rd. And I got my eyes on you. Have a really nice evening tonight. And thanks for joining me for the healing. Good night.